Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be about my experience as a conductor trainee. I work for a Class 2 railroad, and I've been doing this for about 4 months now. And it's a totally different animal of a job. And I want people to know what they're getting into, because a lot of people have questions, and I don't see a lot of videos about railroading. And I just want to give you a perspective from like a Gen Z perspective, someone that didn't grow up thinking they would ever work the railroad, someone that didn't grow up thinking they would ever be in the logistics industry, intermodal industry, shipping, anything like that. I just never thought of that. So my experience is a little bit different. So you got to know someone to get into the industry. You have to apply. Sometimes you'll get lucky and get onto a Class 1 and things go good. But I did 3 weeks of in-person training. And by in-person, let me elaborate on that. 3 weeks of book work, okay? So you have to pass a test to become a conductor. Is it impossible? No. Is it slightly difficult? Yeah. So I was studying 7 days a week for 3 weeks. And I mean, it is fast paced. It's a lot of information. You're going to go over a book called G-Core. You're also going to go over Hazmat. And you're going to go over some essentially like policies and procedures with your company. You're going to go over CPR. I did not have to go over CPR because I'm an EMT. So I'm nationally registered as that, so I didn't have to participate in that. But you're going to go over safety, and they're going to push safety like crazy because it's honestly a very, very dangerous job. You got to understand these cars are rolling quietly on the tracks in the middle of the night. When there's no locomotive on them and you're cutting cars and you're prepping cars and you're switching, you can't really hear what's going on around you. And I work on a Class 2 railroad rather than a Class 1, and my job is a little less strenuous because my hours are not as crazy as someone that's on a Class 1. So what's a Class 1 versus a Class 2 versus a Class 3? It's just revenue and size. So the big dogs, Burlington Northern Santa Fe, BNSF, they're going to be, they're going to be Class 1s. Big money, big money. CSX and Norfolk Southern, those are really good examples of that. Now, I also want to talk about Class 2. So a lot of them are privately owned. They're smaller. Sometimes they're just kind of like switch yards. They're short line, like less than 100-mile long. And sometimes you only go like 10 mile an hour the whole time. And it's very boring, very quiet. It's very monotonous. And I want to talk about the monotony of the job that I've realized already. It's very peaceful. You cannot be on your phone. You cannot touch your phone. You have a company phone. You can't be playing on your phone. It's very strict in policy, and it's for safety because people have been killed if there is a rule, it is because someone has died because of the circumstances, so they create a rule. And that is true. That is absolutely true. A lot of it, is not preventative. It is because someone has died. That's not an overreaction. They will tell you the stories, they will show you the videos, and they will warn you about what not to do. So essentially, your Class 1s are going to pay you a pretty good rate, like above $80,000 to start. Class 2s, that just depends on experience, and it also depends on different factors. It depends on the company that hires you, your experience. It depends on budget. It depends on where you're located. Like you might only make $20 an hour somewhere, but The same company might pay you 25 to 27 to $30 an hour another place. So that's up to you and your employer. So what you should expect is long hours, but nothing over 12 hours. Sometimes you'll only get called out and work like 2 hours. You might spot and pull a customer. You might switch a yard. You might be stuck in a truck all the time watching a train go by. That's it. Middle of the night, just you twiddling your thumbs and your thoughts. That's it. Sometimes you might be working back to back to back. But if you work, I believe it's like 5 or 6 days in a row, you have a mandatory 2 days off straight. So there's a lot of rules that protect you. Also, when you get called out, your company cannot call you, dispatch cannot call you for a minimum of 10 hours. So there's some benefits to it, but I've heard at class 1s that like right when you get off your 10, they can call you back on duty and have a 90-minute to 2-hour minimum. I don't know, that's not my experience, and a lot of railroads are not busy in the summer. And my railroad specifically is not busy in the summertime. Like you'll get called out a handful of times is what I've heard. Now, I'm going to find this out for myself, and I'll let you guys know in the future how that goes. But what are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? Benefits. Sometimes you'll be off for like 4 days straight. Sometimes you'll be off for more than that. Sometimes you'll be on continually, and it is exhausting. Night shift is brutal. Like night shift will tear you up. So I want to let you know that the schedule is 24/7, 365. You do get days off. Some companies will give you like extra days off per month. My point is, there's some good benefits to it. Like healthcare can be extremely, extremely good. Sometimes the benefits will kind of outweigh the cons, but that just depends on you. It depends on how you feel about doing your job. It depends on what you want to do with your railroad. It depends on the company you're with. And sometimes you'll be put on an extra board, right? So it's based upon seniority at these class 1s. And whoever's first up is going to be the new guy. I hope you understand that it takes a level of hard work, but it also takes a level of understanding where you're placing cars, understanding how to communicate with people, and understanding what's going on around you at like all times. You got to be cognizant. You got to be aware. You have to understand what's going on around you. Like I cannot, if you're just going to like try and get into this job and just float on by, it's not going to work. They're going to find you out. They're going to hold you accountable for not doing your job. It's a real job, and thousands and thousands of people do it. So I did 3 weeks of training. It was absolutely brutal because the level of bookwork. And then secondly, you have to go all the way to a different state. And, you know, some of this stuff I'm not going to disclose. Some of it I will disclose. But like I had to go all the way down south. And I'm up here in South Dakota. So once again, met some good people. And then I watch people get fired like because they're screwing off at the hotel. They're doing something bad or they're going out and drinking. If you're going to be that way, don't look for a job because they're not going to deal with it. And so yeah, no, I'm tired from the first 4 months of it, but I'm also seeing a lot of benefits, like what you learn. You're mostly going to learn to communicate really, really well. Because when you're doing your track warrants, they must be perfect. you have to do it perfectly. When you're speaking to someone on the radio and giving commands, they have to be perfect commands. When you are, working with different people operating in the same yard, like, you got to know how to talk to one another under pressure, in the elements, in the cold. Like up here in South Dakota, it was 55-mile-an-hour winds and it was -30 wind chill. So if you're afraid of the heat, or you're afraid of the cold, or you have maybe some stuff that you can't physically do, it is a little bit tough of a job. And if you're in a really like high level environment, or like maybe you're down in Nebraska and you're at like the largest switching yard in the world, you're going to be busy and it's going to be dangerous, and you better do everything to the best of your ability. I think it can teach you a lot. I think it can pay really well on a class 1. Class 2, I don't know. It depends on where you go. But it's a smaller railroad. You're still going to be held to the same standards by the FRA. So, man, at 24 years old, turning 25 here soon, I did not think I was going to be working the railroad. I did not think that I would be a conductor. Am I okay with it? Yeah, I'm okay with it because I'm no longer a mechanic. I'm not turning wrenches and destroying my body. So I think it's a fresh start, and I think it opens up a lot of opportunities. After becoming a conductor, you can go on to become an engineer, a dispatcher, a freight broker. You can study outside of work. Sometimes these railroads, they'll pay for your college. So you can go to college while working full time, and like that's a little bit of an adjustment, but you can do things like that. And a lot of benefits to it. There's railroad retirement. If you want to stick around for 30 years to cash out on that, that's up to you. I don't know if I'm going to be a 30-year guy. I might switch over to being like a freight broker. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'll give you guys like a 6-month update. Maybe I'll do some history videos of like the railroad and talk about my experiences and stuff as time goes on. But I work for a very good company, very well-structured company, and I'm very happy to work for them. And I know this is more of like a private video because I'm talking about like my life and stuff, but nothing is private nowadays. So the people I work with, really good people. And so, yeah, I'd recommend it. I know I was all over the place, but I wasn't going to go, point by point by point by point, bulletin by bulletin. But I'll go into more detail on some other videos. What do I think of railroading? 4 months in, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, and I recommend it to anyone in the future. I recommend it to anybody that's getting right out of high school that wants to learn to communicate and work hard. I think there's a lot of good benefits to it. So, see you guys in the next video. I'll see you later.